The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly, broken only by the faint glimmer of distant stars. The human hospital ship Mercy's Light drifted through a neutral zone, a sanctuary of peace in a galaxy riddled with war. Its white hull gleamed softly, marked with red crosses visible even from hundreds of kilometers away. Inside, hundreds of medics and civilians moved quietly through corridors, tending to wounded soldiers and transporting vital supplies to isolated colonies. Humanity had long upheld a code of compassion even in the midst of interstellar conflict, and the Mercy's Light embodied that ethos. Its crew believed that in a galaxy dominated by greed, aggression, and conquest, Mercy would survive as a symbol of hope. But hope, they would soon learn, could be brutally tested. Without warning, the ship's sensors screamed a warning. A fleet of sleek, dark alien vessels had appeared from the shadows of a nearby nebula. Their intentions were clear: they did not care about treaties, neutrality, or mercy. They fired with precision, tearing through shields and hull alike. Explosions reverberated through the ship, and panic swept through the corridors as alarms blared. Amid the chaos, Dr. Alara Venn remained remarkably calm. Only 27, yet recognized as one of the brightest minds in defensive engineering and adaptive weapons systems, she had been recruited by the United Earth Command years earlier for her genius in designing unconventional strategies. While others panicked, she assessed the situation with cold precision, her mind racing through calculations faster than any machine. The attackers underestimated humanity. They thought a hospital ship, no matter how advanced, would be defenseless. They were wrong. Dr. Venn immediately activated the ship's emergency AI protocols systems she had secretly developed to counter exactly this type of assault. Shields reoriented in irregular patterns, and the ship's hull began generating adaptive energy fields that absorbed energy blasts and redirected them harmlessly into space. But defense alone was not enough. Civilians were still in danger, and the alien fleet vastly outnumbered the humans. Dr. Venn needed an offensive strategy, something that would not only protect the Mercy's Light but also turn the tide of the encounter. She accessed the ship's experimental cloaking drones, small, agile units capable of infiltrating enemy vessels and releasing electromagnetic pulses to disable their systems. With a single command, the drones launched into space. They darted through the chaos of the battle, invisible to alien sensors. One by one, they disabled weapons, jammed communications, and created confusion among the attackers. The alien fleet, expecting an easy victory, found itself disoriented and vulnerable. Dr. Venn did not stop there. She tapped into the aliens' own technology, capturing data from disabled ships and quickly analyzing their patterns. Within minutes, she had developed a countermeasure that allowed the Mercy's Light to anticipate enemy movements, striking precisely at weak points while avoiding unnecessary destruction. The hospital ship, once a symbol of vulnerability, had become a phantom predator in the void of space. The tide turned rapidly. Alien ships that had dared to approach were now retreating or exploding under carefully calculated strikes. Crew and patients watched in disbelief as their sanctuary transformed into a vessel of calculated vengeance, yet none of the civilians were harmed, thanks to Dr. Venn's ingenious tactics. But the genius was not done. Recognizing that this skirmish could escalate into a wider war, she devised a bold plan: a direct strike on the attacker's primary command ship. Using cloaking technology, drones, and the ship's adaptive shields, Dr. Venn piloted a small squad of autonomous crafts into the heart of the enemy formation. There, she deployed an energy surge that temporarily disabled their central systems, allowing a coordinated strike from the human side that shattered the command ship. The destruction of the command vessel sent shockwaves across the alien fleet. Without leadership, the remaining ships faltered and retreated, fleeing into hyperspace with haste. Humanity had survived not through overwhelming force, but through intellect, innovation, and ruthless efficiency guided by Dr. Venn's genius. When the battle ended, the Mercy's Light floated among the debris, scarred but unbroken. Medics returned to their wards, tending to the wounded, while Dr. Venn quietly debriefed with the ship's captain. Her calm, calculated demeanor had saved hundreds of lives and, unknowingly, altered the course of galactic history. News of the event spread quickly through the stars. Humanity's enemies were forced to reassess their strategies. The story of a lone hospital ship outsmarting an entire fleet became legend, a tale whispered in alien corridors and broadcast across interstellar news networks. Dr. Alara Venn, once an unassuming scientist, became a symbol of human ingenuity and resolve. The galaxy had underestimated humans, believing them fragile, peaceful, and defenseless. That assumption had cost their enemies dearly. Now, every empire, coalition, and rogue faction knew that humanity could produce minds capable of changing the balance of power with little more than intellect and courage. In the following years, Dr. Venn's technology and tactics would inspire new generations of human engineers, strategists, and leaders. Ships were built to anticipate attacks, drones could infiltrate even the most secure fleets, and energy shields adapted to enemy patterns in real time. Humanity's defensive and offensive capabilities expanded exponentially, and the galaxy began to view Earth not merely as a backwater planet but as a rising force, strategic, intelligent, and unafraid. And it all began with a hospital ship, an act of aggression, and the deadly genius who refused to accept defeat. One woman's brilliance had rewritten what was possible, turning tragedy into triumph and ensuring that the destiny of the galaxy was forever altered. Space had always been a dangerous place, but the region surrounding the neutral star system Zeta 9 was supposed to be safe. The Mercy's Light, a human hospital ship, glided through the void with its white hull reflecting distant starlight. On board, medics attended to injured civilians and soldiers alike, their movements steady, their minds focused on healing. Humanity prided itself on its neutrality in conflict zones, a rare beacon of hope in a galaxy dominated by war. Hope, however, often attracts predators. Without warning, a fleet of alien warships materialized from the nebula's edge. Sleek and dark, their hulls were built for destruction, bristling with weapons designed to annihilate. Their sensors locked onto the Mercy's light, and an opening salvo of plasma cannons tore through the ship's outer shields. Explosions rocked the corridors, alarms blared, and panic erupted among the passengers. Yet amid the chaos, a calm voice echoed over the comms, "Everyone, stay calm. Follow protocol and keep moving toward the secure zones." Professor Kale Rhine's presence on the ship was a secret known to only a handful. A human genius in strategy, electronic warfare, and psychological manipulation, he had been recruited for his ability to anticipate enemy tactics and think several moves ahead. To most, he appeared to be a simple civilian consultant, but in reality, he was humanity's wild card, a mind capable of turning defeat into victory with nothing but wit and cunning. Kale moved swiftly through the corridors, assessing the attackers' formation. Conventional defense systems alone would not save the ship. The alien fleet vastly outnumbered them, and their technology was designed to penetrate human shields. The situation demanded an unconventional response. He tapped into the ship's experimental systems. Tiny cloaking drones were stored in the maintenance bays, each capable of rapid maneuvering and emitting sophisticated electromagnetic pulses. Kale activated them, releasing the drones into the vacuum of space. Almost immediately, they infiltrated the alien formation, their pulses causing sensor malfunctions and weapon misfires. Alien ships, previously confident in their assault, now struggled to coordinate. But Kale's brilliance went further. He intercepted the alien communication channels, using subtle manipulations to create distrust among the enemy commanders. False signals suggested sabotage and betrayal, prompting them to doubt each other's orders. The once cohesive fleet began to fracture, isolated ships retreating or turning on one another in confusion. Meanwhile, the Mercy's Light continued its seemingly passive movement, appearing vulnerable to anyone watching its hull. But in reality, the ship had become a chessboard under Kale's control, each move deliberate, each defense and counterattack calculated to perfection. Energy fields shifted unpredictably, redirecting incoming blasts harmlessly into space while keeping civilians safe. Kale then implemented the masterstroke of his plan. Using the drones to scout and gather intelligence, he pinpointed the enemy fleet's flagship. Instead of a direct assault, he created the illusion of vulnerability, guiding the alien fleet into a trap. Cloaked decoy drones lured smaller attack ships into minefields carefully crafted from energy-based traps that Kale had integrated into the ship's hull. Explosions erupted across the enemy formation, but the hospital ship remained untouched, a silent predator orchestrating the destruction from within. The flagship, seeing its fleet disintegrate around it, attempted to flee, unaware that Kale had already anticipated its route. By subtly guiding the alien navigation sensors, he channeled the flagship toward a narrow asteroid field. The ship, overconfident and misled, struck debris at high velocity, causing catastrophic damage. Its destruction further demoralized the remaining attackers, and one by one, alien vessels disengaged, retreating into hyperspace. When the battle finally ended, the Mercy's light floated among scattered debris, its hull battered but intact. Medics returned to their wards, attending to injured civilians and soldiers. No human life had been lost, a feat that would be regarded as miraculous across the galaxy. Kale Ryan emerged from the shadows, his calm demeanor unshaken despite the chaos. Crew members and patients alike looked at him with awe, though few understood the depth of his genius. He had not fought with weapons or brute strength, he had fought with intellect, perception, and precision. One mind had outmaneuvered an entire fleet, turning an ambush into a decisive victory. News of the battle spread rapidly. Aliens who had once considered humans weak and defenseless now saw them as unpredictable and dangerous. Tales of the hospital ship that outsmarted a fleet circulated in hushed tones in enemy strongholds. Humanity had proven that they were more than capable of defending themselves, and that brilliance, not just firepower, could determine the fate of a star system. Earth and allied human colonies began investing heavily in strategic innovation and adaptive defense, inspired by Kale's methods. Ships were built not just to fight but to outthink. Commanders studied human tactics, trying and failing to anticipate what had already become the standard: unpredictability combined with ruthless precision. Humanity's reputation shifted overnight, transforming from peaceful healers to ingenious strategists whose minds were as lethal as any weapon. Kale, however, remained in the background, preferring the shadows over accolades. To him, victory was not about fame but about the survival and advancement of humanity. Yet his actions had consequences far beyond his personal desire for secrecy. Political alliances shifted as other species reconsidered their approach to human colonies. Even neutral systems sought human protection, recognizing that intellect could protect where fleets alone might fail. In the end, the ambush of the Mercy's light became a turning point in galactic history. One man's genius had not only saved hundreds of lives but had also altered the perception of humanity across thousands of light years. The galaxy learned a valuable lesson: never underestimate the power of a mind that can see beyond the obvious, anticipate the unpredictable, and turn even a hospital ship into an instrument of victory. Professor Kale Ryan's brilliance had rewritten the rules of engagement, ensuring that humans would never again be considered passive or weak. From that day forward, every species in the galaxy knew that humanity could think, outmaneuver, and outsmart even the deadliest of threats. And all of it began with an attack on a hospital ship and the mind of a deadly genius who refused to let humanity fall. The Mercy's light sailed silently through the shadow of the Andros Nebula, a gleaming beacon of humanity's compassion. Its mission was simple: deliver medical aid to a beleaguered colony on the fringes of human space. Soldiers and civilians alike relied on its speed and neutrality to bring life-saving treatment to the injured. Inside its corridors, the hum of life support systems mingled with the quiet footsteps of medics, each dedicated to preserving life amid the endless void of space. Peace, however, is a fragile illusion in a galaxy filled with hunger for power. From the edge of the nebula, the alien fleet appeared without warning. Sleek, black warships bristling with weapons, they had hunted human colonies before, but none had anticipated what lay within this unassuming hospital ship. Plasma cannons tore through the outer shields, ripping metal and sending corridors into chaos. Alarms blared and screams echoed as explosions shook the vessel. Amidst the panic, Dr. Sorenval remained unshaken. A former prodigy in human military strategy turned scientist, he had been secretly embedding experimental AI systems within the Mercy's light for years, under the guise of medical software upgrades. This AI, capable of learning and adapting in real time, was designed to respond to threats faster than any human mind or conventional weapon could. As the alien ships closed in, Dr. Val activated the AI. Immediately, the hospital ship's hull pulsed with energy, generating adaptive shields that shifted and flexed in response to each incoming blast. The AI quickly analyzed enemy attack patterns, predicting plasma trajectories and creating invisible corridors of safety for civilians. Every hallway became a fortress, every room a sanctuary. Yet defense alone was not sufficient. Dr. Val needed to neutralize the attackers before the Mercy's light was overwhelmed. Using the AI's capabilities, he initiated a counteroffensive unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Tiny autonomous drones, cloaked and virtually invisible, launched from the ship's maintenance bays. They infiltrated enemy vessels, disabling weapons, jamming communications, and even subtly rerouting navigation systems. One by one, the alien ships faltered, confused by their own technology turning against them. But the AI and Dr. Vol were just getting started. He calculated the enemy fleet's formation, predicting the chain of command and identifying the flagship as the linchpin of the operation. A direct assault would be suicidal, but the AI had a plan. Using the hospital ship's energy systems, Vol created a complex series of electromagnetic pulses that simulated a massive fleet approaching from multiple directions. The aliens, seeing what they thought was overwhelming reinforcements, panicked. Commanders argued, systems misfired, and cohesion crumbled. Seizing the moment, Vol guided the Mercy's light into a bold maneuver. Cloaked drones created phantom images of additional ships, making it appear as though the humans had assembled an entire fleet. In reality, the Mercy's light was alone, yet it seemed unstoppable. The flagship, believing itself surrounded, made a critical error, venturing too close to the ship and triggering a trap. A concentrated energy pulse disabled its engines and weapons, leaving it vulnerable to a precise strike from the hospital ship. In minutes, the flagship was destroyed. The remaining alien vessels, leaderless and panicked, began retreating into hyperspace. Humanity's victory had been swift, precise, and achieved without unnecessary loss of life. The Mercy's light, battered but intact, had turned an ambush into a decisive triumph. Dr. Vol's actions did more than protect a single hospital ship, they changed the galaxy's perception of humanity forever. No longer were humans seen as passive healers or secondary players in interstellar politics. They were clever, resourceful, and capable of reshaping events with intellect and innovation. Vol had demonstrated that even a ship devoted entirely to saving lives could become the spearhead of strategic dominance. In the days following the attack, humanity's influence expanded rapidly. Colonies strengthened defenses based on Vol's AI models, ships were equipped with adaptive shields and autonomous drones, and strategic academies began teaching the principles that had turned a hospital ship into a weapon of unparalleled precision. Every empire, coalition, and rogue faction in the galaxy took note. Humans had introduced a new variable that could not be ignored, a mind capable of outthinking and outmaneuvering entire fleets. Meanwhile, Dr. Vol remained in the shadows. To him, the goal was never glory, it was survival and advancement. His AI continued to evolve, learning from each encounter, each conflict, and each threat. It became a silent guardian of human colonies, a sentinel that turned potential tragedy into opportunity. Galactic politics began to shift. Factions that had previously dismissed humanity now sought alliances or at least peaceful coexistence. Neutral systems invited human observers to mediate disputes, aware that the combination of intellect and technology could prevent wars that would otherwise consume countless lives. Humanity's influence grew not through conquest, but through undeniable brilliance and the careful, calculated application of power. The story of the Mercy's Light, a hospital ship attacked in the most neutral of regions, became legend. Across star systems, it was told as the day a single genius and his adaptive AI changed the course of history. Dr. Soren Ball had not just saved lives, he had redefined humanity's role in the galaxy. What had begun as a routine mission of mercy had transformed into the demonstration that intellect, strategy, and innovation were as lethal as any weapon. The galaxy had underestimated humans for centuries, assuming their focus on compassion and healing made them weak. On that day, in the void near the Andros Nebula, one deadly genius proved how wrong they had been. One ship, guided by a mind that could anticipate, adapt, and execute flawlessly, had altered the trajectory of the galaxy. Humanity was no longer a passive player, it was a force to be respected, feared, and admired. And it all started with a hospital ship, an unexpected attack, and a genius who refused to let humanity succumb.